Good evening, and welcome to the Noah-Vision Tales of Strange and the Bizarre. For tonight's story, I present a strange adventure of mad scientists and time travel. The story was written and narrated by myself, and special thanks to Axolti and Yaro Cherniy for providing voices. And if you enjoy, please like, subscribe and comment the word time to save me from the dark forces of the YouTube algorithm. With all that being said, let's get on with the video. Money was always tight for me as a younger man. My lack of desire for work made it so I was always struggling for cash. I lived with my parents, however, due to them working, this meant I usually had the house to myself. I spent my days scrolling Reddit, laughing at videos of kids failing to do parkour, and watching reviews of games I would probably never play. Then one day, a post caught my eye.
Local scientist looking for test subject. Willing to pay £500. Please DM if interested.
It was strange, out of nowhere, a juxtaposition to the usual trash which littered my page. Was it a prank? A con? A practical joke I didn't understand? Either way, something about the post caught my eye and my interest. So, I decided to DM the account that released such a strange post. Hi, is this a joke? Is this legit? I messaged, expecting it to come to nothing.
No, this is a real post, and the money is real too.
The strange account responded.
Are you interested in being involved in my experiment?
The account followed up with. I stared at the strange message. Was I interested? The money was good and I did need it. Drinking with my friends wasn't cheap. The thought swam circles around my brain until another message popped up.
If you want, we could meet up in person. That's if you have any questions. Do you?
I thought about it. £500 for one job? It would mean my parents would stop pestering me about not having any financial independence. I decided to meet with the strange man, just to see what he was offering. We chose to meet at a local cafe that Thursday. I entered the cafe wearing my least stained shirt. The room smelled of brewing drinks and creamy cakes, a smell I recognised from coming with my grandfather as a child. Looking around the cafe, I saw that the room was mostly empty, a few older couples enjoying retirement. There was one person who stood out though. He had a scruffy beard and was incredibly scrawny. He was wearing a faded brown suit which was clearly meant for a man much larger than he was. The scrawny man turned around and looked at me. He stared. It felt like an eternity before he stood up and approached.
Hello, are you the person who I've been speaking to on Reddit?
The man asked, his wiry hands gripping my own. Yes, about the experiment? I responded.
Perfect, come sit.
The man said, indicating that I follow him to his table.
My name is Dr. Elric Varnhold.
The man said, sitting opposite me, his thin fingers gripping his mug of steamy coffee. What's the experiment about? I asked. I hoped he was going to say something like a new type of smartphone, or even a new type of experimental electric car. Instead, Dr. Varnhold's next words shook me to my core.
I have built a time machine.
I stared at him. His eyes seemed extremely serious. Time travel? The type of thing out of crappy sci-fi comics? Yet, something about his words hypnotised me into an abnormal level of obsession. The man pulled a pile of creased notes out of his jacket pocket and waved them around.
As you can see, the £500 is real. I shall give it to you upon the completion of the experiment.
Dr. Varnhold said. I sat in my chair. My brain shuffled between thoughts of, it's a con, it's a prank, it's clearly going to go wrong. Yet, almost as if my mouth was working on its own, I said, I'm in. Sounds cool. I sat there. I said that? I really said that? Then Dr. Varnhold spoke up.
Thank you. Come around to my lab at 6 p.m. tomorrow.
He said, scribbling down the address on a napkin and sliding it towards me.
Curiosity is something to be admired in a man,
he said as he stood up and walked away, leaving me alone in the cafe. I had nightmares that night, of being chased by dinosaurs, of seeing who really built the pyramids. What had I done? Agreeing to such an experiment, was it really worth £500? I spent the next day thinking. I didn't spend the day scrolling on Reddit. Instead, I watched hour after hour of history documentaries. Some of these videos showed me the accepted facts of history, and others showed me complete nutjobs babbling about conspiracy theories. I got my dad to drop me off at the lab at the agreed time. I made up some lie about meeting a friend there. My dad never suspected my real reason for being there. I don't think he would have believed me even if I had told him. The lab wasn't what I expected. Not sleek and clean like something out of a TV show. Instead, I was faced with a warehouse. A dark and messy warehouse.
Ah, my friend, you made it.
Dr. Varnhold said, his bony hands slapping down onto my shoulders. Dr. Varnhold was wearing a dirty and stained lab coat. It hung from his thin frame like it was designed for a man twice his size. He led me into his lab. There was a long table. A mix of strange contraptions and computers were covering it. They were all connected together, beeping and flashing any colour of the rainbow. At one end of the table was a strange contraption. It was like the combination of the barrel of a gun and an otherworldly scientific instrument. The contraption aimed at a ragged old armchair.
Please, sit down,
Dr. Varnhold said, his voice more serious than I'd ever heard. I sat in the chair. I was nervous. This wasn't going to work. I was sure it was going to kill me. Are you sure about this? I asked, my voice trembling a little.
Of course.
Dr. Varnhold responded, his voice serious and confident. I watched as the man fiddled with dials, typed on keyboards and flicked the odd switch. The machine beeped and buzzed, as if it was coming to life in front of me, like a mechanical beast from hell. I had thoughts of jumping out of the chair, of running away, but I couldn't. My mind was too intrigued at the concept of what was going to happen. Dr. Varnhold pulled an old phone from his pocket on his lab coat. It looked decades out of date. The device had wires sticking out of it at strange angles. Clearly, he had modified it himself.
When you need to return, press the number 5 on the keypad. It will return you to the present,
Dr. Varnhold said, throwing the phone into my lap. I gripped it tightly in my hands, my lifeline to the modern world. Dr. Varnhold returned to the contraption and pressed a large red button. And with that, and a loud, high-pitched wail of machinery, I was engulfed in a bright, white light. When I opened my eyes, I found myself floating through a tunnel of shimmering light. Loud sounds, which I can only describe as the gears of reality itself, blared into my ears. Then, with another bright flash of light, I crashed down into slimy, wet mud. The sounds around me were deafening. Wails of agony, screams of gunfire, and the deafening bellows of cannons. I immediately recognised it from old pictures and movies. I was in no man's land. World War I. I rose to my feet, my now mud-covered modern-day clothes feeling out of place amongst the flowing smoke and barbed wire. I heard a voice from behind me.
Du! Heb deine Hände hoch!
It was a soldier. His rifle was raised, and I had no idea what he had said.
Hoch! Hände hoch!
The soldier shouted, slowly approaching. I watched as the barrel of his gun shortened the distance between us. The echoing blast from the man's rifle tore through the air. Pain, sharp and white-hot, erupted in my shoulder as I collapsed into the wet mud. I didn't scream. I couldn't. There was only the pounding in my heart, the weight of the world pressing down on me. I ran. The warm blood soaked my out-of-place clothes as I fled across no man's land, a ghost in a war I was never meant to see. At some stage, I don't remember when, but I collapsed to the ground. The pain was too much. I pulled the phone from my jacket pocket. Dr. Varnhold's voice echoed around my head.
When you need to return, press the number 5 on the keypad.
I pressed down on the 5 and then... nothing. I pressed again, and again, until all my hopes had faded. I was just left with one message on the screen. Battery at 0%. Did Dr. Varnhold betray me? Did he purposefully give me a broken phone? The thoughts didn't even get a chance to process until there was a loud, explosive echo. A flash of blinding light, then total darkness. Was I dead? Was I waking up from a dream? No. I awoke on a makeshift bed, lying on a pile of boxes covered with straw. My heart sank as I saw my surroundings, the trench. My body felt numb. Then I looked down. The next sight I witnessed was the most horrifying. One of my legs was missing. The sight was soul-crushing. My leg was gone, replaced with a bloody stump and stained bandages. The next few hours were a blur. I watched people pass me, soldiers, more focused on fighting in hell. At one point, I spoke to a doctor. The man was covered in blood and filth, clearly from other people. He told me that I would be transferred to a hospital in a nearby town. That was a month ago now. The hospital isn't much better than the trench. Yes, there isn't the deafening sound of gunfire, but there is the constant screams of wounded soldiers. Thousands of them, either in bed or sprawled on stretchers laid on the ground. At the hospital, the nurse gave me some papers. If anyone finds this in 100, 200 years' time, please come get me. I want to come home. I dream every night of returning to my home. However, I fear this reality may never come true. If you can, please come get me. I don't belong here.
Subscribe if you enjoyed and want to see more content in future.